Hey guys, welcome to my channel. This is actually going to be a summarized version of 5 or actually really 6 videos that I've already made for my patrons over at patreon.com/bastiontime. It would be too long. I tried recording it for this channel. It turned out to be 41 minutes long, so I scrapped that version and instead recorded basically that same version again, but in 10-minute chunks for my patrons. And now here for this channel, I'm just going to do the quick summarized version, leave out a lot of the controversial stuff. I kind of went off on some tangents, which, I mean, might find interesting, but for the sake of the general audience, I'll leave out some of the controversial stuff and just focus on the quick and dirty details. So if you want to check out those frankly much more interesting versions of each of these stories, there's plenty to watch over at patreon.com/bastiontime. Anyway, let's talk about the first bit. So a quick summary of the week leading up to this event. And this event that I'm talking about is visiting my partner's parents in, for all intents and purposes, Salt Lake City. We live in Portland. He grew up in Washington, in Spokane, which is a very conservative town, and then they moved to Salt Lake to be closer to the extended family. So yes, take from that what you will. In fact, if you have an assumption about what it means that his extended family is from Salt Lake City, you're right on the nose. That's it exactly. So we're going to go visit them. But the week leading up to that, we stupidly scheduled our camping trip right before, just 3 days before our week-long trip in Salt Lake City. So anyways, right before our camping trip, at which we cannot take our dog, it's a closed hiking loop that dogs aren't allowed, so we're going to have to put our dog in boarding. And that was great because we wanted to get him used to the boarding, because we had to put him in boarding for the week-long trip. We can't bring our dog with us to his parents in Salt Lake City. That's not allowed. So the car broke down. And then they could not look at the car at all. They were completely booked everywhere in Portland, completely booked, no rental cars available. Also massive heat wave coming in, but we'll get to the heat wave after this. So anyway, they finally could look at the car and were able to fix it the night before our camping trip. So thankfully we were able to quickly go get the car, bring it home, and the next morning take the dog to boarding and then go on our camping trip. And the camping trip went fine, but then on our way back from the camping trip, the car started misbehaving again and started doing the exact same things and even worse. So we had to call the boarding people and say, look, I can't even promise that we're gonna get home, let alone we're gonna get home and be able to pick up the dog. Can he possibly, if we absolutely have to, can he stay one more night? Or possibly, can we just add these extra 2 days onto the week he's already staying there? And they're like, no, we're fully booked. That's not gonna be able to happen. So, okay, we gotta find out some way to get the car fixed in time to be able to go pick him up. You might be saying to yourself, well, couldn't you just rent a different car or get a friend or family member to drive you to pick him up? No, because he has severe behavioral issues and he can't handle, whether he's going to attack another human being that isn't my partner and me is up in the air. Nobody knows for sure whether that is or isn't going to happen. Frankly, the fact that he's able to handle without too much incident going to boarding is brand new to us, because we tried to take him years ago. They immediately said, not a match, we can't take this dog. So anyway, that's not an option. We have to be able to pick the dog up ourselves with our own car. So we took the car, we called the place and said, look, you guys didn't fix this issue. The car is severely effed up. So they're like, oh goodness, bring it in and we'll get to it as soon as we can. So we went and waited for 3 hours while they finally got to the car and said, oh, oops, we didn't realize this thing was disconnected. Never mind, we fixed it, it's all good now. The car had been like shaking dramatically and making a horrible banging sound. It turns out some magnet or something was not attached correctly or loose or something or other. So we're like, oh, thank goodness, it's all resolved. So then 2 days later, this heat wave is coming in where it's 115 degrees in Portland, which is unheard of. I've lived here my whole life In the summertime as a kid, if it got to 80 degrees, woohoo, summer weather. Usually would be in the 70-degree area. If it got up to 90 degrees, it's like, what is this? This is crazy. If it got up to 100 degrees, that happened like maybe twice or something when I was a kid. It just does not happen. So 115, my mom, when I was a kid, if it got up to 80 degrees, she was incapacitated. We were poor, we had no air conditioning in our apartment, so she had a box fan blowing on her while she laid on a couch 100% of the time, and she could not function. She was sick to her stomach, headachy. I had to constantly bring her ice water, and I'm not like that, thank goodness, but in 100 degrees, my 100 degrees is her 80 degrees, and so it was awful. We have no air conditioning in this house. We've got 2 box fans. So anyway, that was awful. So the night before, our flight out to Salt Lake City, my partner says, oh, hey, why don't you go ahead and check us in, because you can do that 24 hours ahead of time. So I go to try to do that, and it's saying, no, you have to do that 1 to 24 hours ahead of time. And it's like, it's 11 hours or something like that ahead of time. That's within that range. What's going on here? I look at the tickets, and now let me specify that the flight was supposed to be Monday morning, and our return flight is Friday afternoon. And my partner and I had debated way back 3 months ago, do we do Monday through Friday or do we do Tuesday through Saturday? We debated back and forth. I even went so far as to select times, and all I had to do was click, pay now in both instances. And we decided Monday through Friday, so I believed that was the set of tickets I had purchased. Turns out I didn't. Turns out I purchased the Tuesday through Saturday. That's not a big deal. You might be saying to yourself, you're just one more day at home and one more day there. Yeah, but the dog is booked at the boarding specifically Monday through Friday. They have sent us a deluge of emails for weeks now, not us, but their clients at large, saying we cannot take the dog anymore. We're fully booked. So there's no option for him to stay Friday night. And also we have family things that we're supposed to be doing on Tuesday, but we wouldn't be able to get there in time to do those things on Tuesday. And so you might be saying to yourself, oh, well, clearly you can just refund the tickets and buy new ones, or you should be able to exchange those tickets for Monday and Friday ones. No, every email that I bought the cheapest possible tickets that have no such protection. So they specify no refunds, no exchanges, no changes. I go to their website just to make sure. I try to do it. It says, no, you can't do that. So I look up, are there any flights tomorrow morning? And if you've ever tried to book tickets, that if you try to buy them less than 24 hours ahead of time, the price is jacked up astronomically, and it was. In fact, in order to buy tickets on Monday, the tickets just to Salt Lake City were more expensive for 2 people, were more expensive than tickets to and from Salt Lake City in the previous iteration. So I've more than doubled the cost of this trip. But I had to do it, had to eat the cost, right? So we go and do that. But what about the dog on Friday? Do I have to buy another set of tickets, thereby tripling the cost? In my opinion, no. What we'll do is we'll go ahead and just see if there's any possible way to sob story the boarding people to keeping him one more night. Surely they must have had a cancellation or something. If not, fine, I'll go ahead and I've got days. I'll go ahead and buy the extra tickets for Friday. So on that very morning, right before our flight, I call after we already drop off the dog. You might be saying to yourself, well, why didn't you talk to them while you were dropping off the dog? Well, I couldn't because it's a chaos. They've got one person, and our dog has weird territorial issues, so we can't take the dog into the boarding and hand him off. Then he doesn't trust the people there, so they have to come out to him and take the leash. So there's no option to talk to them. So anyways, right before the flight, I call the boarding, and they say, yeah, no problem. We'll just check him out for Saturday morning. Okay, then why do all of your emails say you can't do that you're fully booked? But thank goodness for that. So we are able to catch our flight. My partner, by the way, this whole time is a huge stress ball. Even though it's resolved, he's still anxious. We catch our flight, the flight goes fine, then we get to Salt Lake City and go to get our rental car and say, okay, so actually we need it one more day because we're actually leaving on Saturday, not Friday. And they say, okay, fine, no problem. So your total before that was going to be $400 and some change for 4 days, but now it's going to be $700. Why is it $300 extra for one day if it's $400 for 4 days? That math doesn't compute. Oh, well, because now we have to charge you the weekly fee for a full week, so you get the car for 7 days. Well, we don't need the car for 7 days. We only need it for 4 plus 1 days, 5 days. Well, that's just the way it is. It's a week fee now. So my plan is, great, what we're going to do instead is we're only going to use the car for 1 day and then drop it off somewhere close to my partner's parents' house. We don't need the car for the rest of the week until we can have them drive us there on Saturday morning, and then we'll rent the car to take us to the airport, because I forgot to mention, my partner's parents don't live in Salt Lake City, they live 2 hours outside of Salt Lake City, so we have to have a rental car from airport to their town of 621 people. But there is a bigger town close to them with several thousand people, so surely there's a car rental place there. I'm gonna just drop the car off, and then Saturday we can re-rent a car, and then we're only spending, what, $200? So we win. Turns out there are no car rental places from the airport to his parents' house. None of this specific chain, so we can't drop the car off anywhere. Literally the closest possible one is the airport, and even if there was no car availability from any of the other car rental services known to man between the airport and his parents' house. So we're stuck with the car for the 7 days, which blows chunks because we don't need it for 7 days. Anyway, so that was one whole thing. Now I'm going to summarize the next bit of things, and these things I go into much more detail in the full video, but we're already at 12 minutes, so let's hurry through this. Thing number one is I'm a person who likes solid set in stone plans. I plan things months in advance if possible, at least a week if possible. His whole family, for whatever reason, is very flippant and up in the air. So we had a set plan that on Tuesday we're going to go to this very child-friendly, meant for younger kids water park, but really it's just got like 2 water slides and a mini golf course. And the original plan had been to go to Lagoon, which is the huge theme park, but none of the family was willing to go to Lagoon except my partner and me, and this particular brother of his and his wife and their 5 kids. Yes, because they're of that certain religion, so all 4 of his brothers are all married and all have about 5 kids. So we're able to convince them to go to Lagoon, the big theme park, but nobody else. So scrap that. My partner's dad suggests, how about instead we go to Cherry Hill, which is more family friendly, more for little kids and frankly older people who don't want to do big roller coasters. So the whole family is interested in that. Great. We get there and the kids are like, so we're going to Lagoon tomorrow. And I'm like, no, we're not. We're going to Cherry Hill. And we talk to my partner's brother and he's like, oh yeah, we changed our mind because mom, my partner's mom, doesn't want to go to Cherry Hill after all. She wants a rest day because she's exhausted from having my partner's brother and his wife and 5 kids there for like half of a week already. So she wants to not have to go. And so it's just going to be my partner's dad and my partner and me, and then his brother and his wife and their kids. So if that's the case, then why don't we just go to Lagoon? But no, because I know my partner's dad is not going to want to go to Lagoon, and I know that my partner's brother's wife is not going to want to go to Lagoon, and I know that they can't bring their 2 small children. It would be a waste of money to bring the 2 smallest children. So why don't we all just go to Cherry Hill instead? But there was no convincing them of that. So then we decided, okay, fine, we'll go to Lagoon. And then his brother later on in the day said, oh, you know what, now I'm thinking about it, that's a huge bunch of money for Lagoon, so maybe we just won't go anywhere at all. So now we don't even know what we're doing on Tuesday, and then Tuesday gets moved to Wednesday, and then finally he decides, actually, yes, I do want to go. The moment that we wake up in the morning, it's like, actually, we are going to go. So we went and had a great time at Lagoon. That same brother is in a situation where he is somebody who really likes video games. He bought the newest Pokemon game for his kids to play. Turns out there's maybe a trans character in that game that I haven't played it, so I don't know, but they are of this particular religion where being transgender is not acceptable, and so he told his kids, oh, never mind, you can't play this game anymore, and we're selling it. And then coincidentally, the transgender issue has arisen in his church where it's just straight up not acceptable. So in his particular location, there is a child who has grown up to be the age of, if the child were male, then they get to receive these certain kinds of blessings and privileges, but they were born female, so they're not being allowed to receive that. And so it's creating some controversy. And he was asking his father, my partner's father, you know, have you had to deal with this? Because my partner's father is the leader of his church for the time being, and of his particular location. And his father says, well, no, not really. And his mom, my partner's mom, says, but that's because we only have normal people in Idaho. Technically, they're in Idaho. And I was going to flip out. So instead, I removed myself from the situation and went downstairs and was just like, I don't know what to do here. My moral compass says I must say things, but I can't say things. Because what I forgot to mention is that when the kid told me, my nephew told me, oh, who's in 3rd grade, oh, but the secret is, the reason why we can't play that game is because it has a transgender person in it, and that's wrong. I said, no, some people believe it's wrong, but I don't believe it's wrong, and plenty of other people don't believe it's wrong. And the kid was like, but it is wrong. And I was like, no, that's up to you and your dad to talk about, though. So it's a thing going on. So anyways, that was something to deal with. And then there was this whole thing that his mom also said accidentally about my partner giving up on pretending to be straight, basically. Giving in to being gay. That I was just like, oh my goodness, you don't understand how this works. And then the final piece of awfulness was, on our final day, I go to check us in to the flight, the return flight home, and it's a repeat of exactly the departing flight situation where it says there's no ticket attached to this confirmation code. And I'm like, of course there is. There are 2 tickets attached to this confirmation code. And it's like, no, you have to call this number. So I call the number, and the woman says, oh no, well, since you were a no-show on Tuesday, we just canceled these flights because that's our policy. And I said, but I was a no-show on Tuesday because I actually needed to go on Monday. And you won't let me exchange my tickets, so I had to buy brand new tickets for twice the price from your competitor. So I couldn't help but no-show on Tuesday. And she said, oh yeah, okay, well, we can't do anything about it though. That's just our policy. If you no-show, then we cancel your return flight. And I'm like, oh, okay, so you're refunding that to me and then I have to buy brand new tickets? That sucks. And she says, no, we're not refunding it to you. But yeah, you will have to buy brand new tickets with brand new money. No. So I demanded to speak to her supervisor and explain the whole situation to her supervisor, and he was like, oh, well, yeah, that's our policy. You should have just called us and had us exchange the tickets. And I'm like, your website and all of your confirmation emails say I cannot exchange the tickets. There are no exchanges, there are no refunds, there are no changes to the tickets. And he's like, oh yeah, I thank you for understanding that our website does say that. But if you had called us, we would have been able to try to work something out. And it's like, oh my God. I wouldn't have had to spend the extra $700 then? That would have been nice to know. I wouldn't have had to buy extra tickets from a complete different company. So anyways, thankfully he was able to get those tickets reinstated, and we were able to get home. The flight was delayed by an hour, but who cares? And now we're home. And that's it. If you want to hear the much more detailed, I skipped out all kinds of other things, much more detailed version of those stories, check out my Patreon, patreon.com/BastionTime. See you guys for the next video. Bye guys.